there's a lot of untapped potential for this business globally when we look beyond North America, right? If you look at how mature the mental health space here in the US, the same cannot be said for other markets around the world.
Intellect is a global mental health platform that says they are disrupting traditional workplace employee assistance programs. Joining me now to share more is Intellect's Head of North America and Chief of Staff, Eric Hoang. Eric, welcome to the New York Stock Exchange.
Thanks for having me, Ashley. I'm happy to be here.
So let's just start with the basics. What service is Intellect providing and who are your customers?
Yeah, so I like to think of us as EAP Plus. For those of you that are familiar with what that means, it's essentially an employee assistance program. This has been around for really decades, but only until recently, probably post-COVID, when these started to get more modernized with technology. And so we like to say we provide EAP Plus. And what that actually means is we provide mental well-being and mental health solutions to individuals and enterprises around the world.
All right, so what does that mean? If I am a user and I am at a large organization and I have access to Intellect, what is that process like and what services are available to me?
Yeah, great question. So we have an app, so you can go on the Google Play Store, Apple App Store, download our app, and it's much like what you would see with many of the other direct-to-consumer mental health and well-being apps out there. So you have access to prevention, self-care, self-guided training, journaling, all these things, but also through our app is where you can actually get access to care with our thousands of providers around the world. So that's everything from coaching, clinical care, you could see a clinician, and also we have crisis intervention. So if something were to happen at the workplace or at home and you need to speak to someone immediately, you can access all of that under one roof through the Intellect app.
And what differentiates you from other mental health platforms on the market?
Yeah, so I think I'll start with a very, very objective one. So many of them have been founded and operate here in the US, whereas for us, we were founded in Singapore 6 years ago, and naturally, I mean, we had to do business very differently as a result of that. So Singapore is a much smaller country, but very multicultural, very diverse, and so from day one, we had to be very aware of cultural nuances as it relates to mental health, right? So how someone takes on mental health in Singapore or in Indonesia or in Japan are very different. So from day one, we were very localized and we had to do international expansion from pretty much the onset of our business. So I would say I'll start with that is very culturally nuanced in terms of our care, and we provide access to languages to really more than 100 countries around the world.
That's a great point that you brought up. I understand that attitudes toward mental health differ in different parts of the world. How have you tailored your approach to places that may not be as open to receiving mental health care?
Yeah, so great question too. So let me just first start with our inception story. So you may or may not know this, but mental health is perceived in a very, very different way than it is here in America or North America more broadly. Is, take for example, even broaching the topic of mental health with someone in Asia is a very stigmatized conversation, right? And so starting with that is not something we actually led with. We led with prevention. We led with things around fitness and financial insecurity, right? These are all, we believe, sort of like precursors to the mental health conversation. And so that's sort of what we did is in a lot of our content, we don't actually really lead with mental health first, right? So it's more talking about some of those other issues that I brought up. The other thing is just making sure that we have providers and content that's culturally relevant to you. So I'll give you an example of that is we provide access to care in many languages in India. One example would be Kannada, which is actually the spoken language in Bangalore. So something like that, right? Just making sure that people have access to the content and the providers that speak what they're speaking, and also sometimes even look like the way they do is very important as well.
Why are you in this line of work?
Yeah, good question. So we ask that question actually a lot to people who want to join the company, and there's actually for mental health often a very personal story. So for myself as well, I was just telling Ashley off the record earlier that I was stuck in China over COVID for 3 years. So naturally went through some mental health trauma there, and that's something that I'm still working through, and also starting my own business as well. So that was very hard coming out of that. But personally, there's a mental health story to it, but also I just see that there's a lot of untapped potential for this business globally when we look beyond North America, right? If you look at how mature the mental health space here in the US, the same cannot be said for other markets around the world, Latin America, EMEA, APAC. And so for us, I think we're well positioned to sort of be that rest of the world solution that can provide one really globally tailored option for employers and individuals alike.
And I understand you work with large enterprise organizations. When entering a company, how do you roll out the implementation of this platform?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, our business and our sales cycle, our motion is very consultative, right? So sometimes we're talking to a customer for anywhere from 8 to 12 months at times, working with them, trying to figure out their solution, what works best, because employee populations do differ from company to company, culturally, size, geographic location. So there is a big portion of sitting down with them and trying to understand, like, where are the pain points from a well-being perspective, from an engagement perspective, and nowadays from a retention or productivity perspective, right? So like mental health, we believe, is not just about well-being. It actually addresses a lot of those things that I talked about. So we do spend a lot of time up front just trying to understand like where things hurt within the organization. And then through that's where we build really a tailored solution. And then implementation, I mean, for us, the great thing is once we decide what the solution is, we can implement things as fast as 6 to 8 weeks on the ground, really with parity across the world. So whether your employees sit in Mexico City or Istanbul, you should expect that same level of care and that same level of service, irrespective of where they are.
And what impact can employee assistance resources have on a person? And are there any examples that you can share with us?
Yeah, sure. So historically, going back to EAPs, the engagement actually has been historically very, very low, anywhere from 1% to 3%. There's various reasons for that, and I won't get into that right now, but one of the biggest pain points is employers know they need to have this. It's sort of been a check the box, right? Like if you don't have it and something happens to an employee, then that could pose some liability issues or some risk. So they know they need to have it, but now it's more about how do we get more value out of these employee assistance programs? How do we get more employees on it? And how do we address some of those pain points that I mentioned earlier around engagement, stress, burnout, retention, productivity, all of those things? Like, can EAP or mental health solutions be a way to address those things? And we firmly believe we can, right, through our solution. So Intellect, for example, has much, much higher engagement than traditional EAPs. And so the value, I think, is a few things. Number one is just making sure you have happier and better performing employees, right? That seems pretty simple. But then two, I think, is driving ROI to the tool, right? So are they not missing work as much? Is there less attrition? Are they performing better? Are they operating at a higher level? Or are they just using the app more than they would something else? And like that's a very direct correlation to value.
Regarding the interface of Intellect, how are you able to serve 100 different countries?
Yeah, so there's actually two modes where you can do that. You can go into our app and actually either desktop or mobile, you can toggle between languages and it actually happens live right in front of you. It's pretty cool. I wish I could actually show you now, but so yeah, that's one way. And the other way is actually through our thousands of providers around the world, they speak many different languages as well. So that's through the matching process, you'll be able to select in our app what language you want to receive care in. And so that's essentially how you do it. But for us, really, it comes down to access. So access not just in the form of language, but speed to care as well. So like I said, irrespective of whether you sit in Amsterdam or in Bangalore or in Mexico City, we want to make sure we guarantee access to care within 1 to 2 business days, irrespective of the language or the topic that you want to cover in that session.
What is the process around making an appointment with a provider look like, and what is that turnaround time, and what makes it unique?
Yeah, so I think one is just the ease of booking the appointment, right? So many EAPs historically, you'd have to call into a helpline, maybe give them your insurance information, and you're routed into maybe another third-party network. So it's a very clunky and sort of fragmented process just through that booking. And so already that creates some friction in just getting care that you're seeking. And sometimes it's quite urgent or dire in nature, right? So for us, it's all done through the app. It's very simple. You basically put in your information, what language you want to seek care in, and dates that you're available. And like I said, we try to get care to you within 1 to 2 business days. Once you're booked, you actually get to choose between virtual or in-person care. And again, people have different preferences between the two, and we're actually seeing more data showing that people want to come in person, right, for whatever reason. But yeah, so you determine how you want the session to be held. And then what we do is actually post the session. So of course the providers have to take notes, right? And there has to be documentation on the session. But we actually then allow the user to then rate the session as well. And so that kind of acts as a quality assurance step for us to make sure that they're actually enjoying the session, it's providing value, there's quality there, but also as a way for us to monitor and ensure governance on the provider themselves also, right? Making sure they're performing on their end.
What's Intellect's growth trajectory over the next year or so?
Yeah, so like I said, we started in Singapore, so our business, when we started, was very Asia Pacific at the onset. So more so like Asia Pacific, serving multinationals that have headquarters in, say, Singapore or Hong Kong, right? So many large US-based companies actually are even our customers when we started. But for us, since then, fast forward to today, we've actually been brought into other regions. So Latin America, EMEA, now North America. And for us, it's like we really want to be able to leverage our global capabilities as a mental well-being platform to serve large employers around the world. So what we've noticed is there really hasn't been one truly global solution for the entire world. It's sort of been done in a fragmented manner. So let's say a large company like NYSE, for example, might have employees in APAC or EMEA. It might have been done in a fragmented manner. Okay, so one EAP for EMEA, one EAP for APAC. We want to be able to consolidate all of that under one roof, and so that's where we think we can be in terms of our aspirations as a company.
Eric Hoang, Head of North America and Chief of Staff for Intellect, thank you so much for joining us at the New York Stock Exchange.
Thanks for having me, appreciate it.